Let's turn to events in California and firefighters in Los Angeles.
At least 16 people have died, and officials fear that number will continue to rise.
Officials are hammering home the message for everyone to stay alert because that danger is still very much present.
Firefighters got a slight break with the weather.
And this new video, nighttime video, just into our newsroom shows the intense flames and powerful winds fire crews are battling tonight.
The Pope's words shocked the world. He saw it coming. California's wildfires burn homes to ash and choke the skies. They're more than tragic, they're a warning. In 2015, the Pope's urgent cry about our collapsing planet felt prophetic, foreseeing this destruction. Now, as towns smolder and lives shatter, his voice feels like a whisper when the world demands a roar. Tune in to uncover layers of loss. A haunting truth awaits your soul. Leadership's fragile echo. The Pope expressed sorrow in a prayer for those affected by the wildfires blazing through California and the icy chaos on the eastern seaboard. He asked for divine intervention for the deceased, comfort for grieving families, and strength for the first responders. Sounds heartfelt, right? Sure, but let's dig a little deeper into what's being said, and maybe more importantly, what isn't. But beneath the plea lies a truth that could shake the foundations of faith and power. Now here's where the criticism creeps in. The wildfires in California weren't some unexpected, out-of-nowhere catastrophe. These infernos have been rampaging through the state year after year, largely thanks to climate change, drought conditions, and, let's not forget, human negligence. While thoughts and prayers might feel good in the moment, they're not exactly doing much to douse the flames or prevent the next fire season from being worse than the last. Let's talk about those freezing temperatures too. A prayer for the victims? Sure, fair enough. But this isn't just a freak weather event either. It's another red flag in the climate crisis conversation, a crisis that has been largely fueled by a global addiction to fossil fuels and a lack of meaningful action from both governments and corporations. Yet the message from the pulpit didn't touch on any of that. No, hey, maybe we should think about what's causing all this. Just a solemn prayer for peace. Here's the kicker. When you're someone as influential as the Pope, your words carry weight. A lot of people listen to you. Millions, if not billions. This isn't just about offering comfort. It's about leading a conversation, sparking action. And let's face it, a prayer, while kind, is not a substitute for action. It's a soft whisper when we need a shout. Instead, it's the same old script. Comfort the afflicted, pray for the dead, pat the first responders on the back. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm. Comfort is nice, sure, but it's not enough. Imagine the impact of a statement like, "We mourn the losses from these wildfires, but we must also recognize the urgency to address the root causes. Our treatment of the planet, our disregard for sustainable practices, and the systems that allow this cycle to continue." Now that's a headline. That's a call to action. Instead, we're left with a prayer. And while it's certainly not harmful, it's also not the bold leadership the world desperately needs right now. It's not enough to simply acknowledge the problem. When you're in a position of power, especially one that's rooted in moral authority, you have a responsibility to push for solutions. And let's be real, this isn't just about the Pope. He's a symbol, sure, but he's also just one part of a larger puzzle. Political leaders, corporate executives, and even everyday people, we all have a role to play. But it's hard to ignore when someone with such a massive platform opts for the easy route of saying something nice instead of saying something necessary. What does this pattern tell us about leadership in times of crisis? Too often it's reactive rather than proactive. Take California's wildfires, for instance. The state burns every year like clockwork, yet substantial preventative measures remain elusive. Yes, firefighters do a heroic job, but their work is like trying to mop up water while the tap is still running. Forest management plans are patchy, and climate change initiatives often get bogged down in political wrangling. And what about the icy conditions battering the eastern United States? These aren't isolated incidents either. The polar vortex has become a near-annual headline, with temperatures dipping to dangerous levels, disrupting lives and infrastructure. Where's the systemic planning to address these issues? Where's the urgency to invest in renewable energy, to transition away from fossil fuels, to build resilient communities that can withstand these extremes. Leaders, whether spiritual, political, or corporate, have a duty to step up and say what needs to be said, even if it's uncomfortable. It's not enough to simply acknowledge that bad things are happening. People need direction, they need solutions. They need to know that those in power are taking the problem seriously and working to fix it. The Pope's prayer could have been an opportunity to address these broader issues, to connect the dots between faith, stewardship of the earth, and the pressing need for action. Instead, it was a missed chance. A prayer for peace and comfort is good, but it's incomplete. It's like showing up to a house fire with nothing but a bucket of water. The intentions are good, but the impact is minimal. The faithful, and even the faithless, look to leaders for guidance in times of crisis. They want to know what can be done, what should be done. They want someone to speak the truth even when it's hard to hear. And the truth is that these disasters aren't going away. If anything, they're going to get worse unless we make significant changes. Consider the global implications of these events. Wildfires in California don't just affect the state. They contribute to air pollution that can travel across continents. They release massive amounts of carbon dioxide, further exacerbating climate change. The freezing conditions in the eastern U.S. aren't just a local problem either. They're part of a larger pattern of extreme weather that's affecting the entire planet. This is a global crisis, and it requires a global response. Leaders like the Pope have the platform to push for that response. They have the moral authority to call for change, to hold governments and corporations accountable, to inspire individuals to take action. But that requires more than words of comfort. It requires courage. It requires vision. It requires a willingness to confront the root causes of these problems and to demand that others do the same. Faith and science collide, shaping a crucial choice, a moral and environmental reckoning. As the world continues to grapple with the effects of climate change, the need for bold leadership has never been greater. The Pope's prayer for the victims of the wildfires and the cold snap was a step in the right direction. But it was just that, a step. What we need now are leaps toward sustainable energy, leaps toward better forest management, leaps toward a future where these disasters are less frequent and less devastating. The Pope dropped a bombshell back in 2015 with Laudato Si', a letter that doesn't just whisper about saving the planet, but flat out demands we rethink our entire relationship with the earth. It's not just for the Sunday church crowd. It's a straight-up wake-up call to anyone who's been ignoring the planet's slow collapse. The timing couldn't be more relevant. Fast forward to now, and we're seeing the fiery infernos of California wildfires practically scribble the Pope's message in giant, smoky letters across the sky. Coincidence? Maybe not. What makes his voice stand out? It's not just about religion. Sure, he's the leader of the Catholic Church, but when he talks about the environment, he's speaking to everyone. His message crosses boundaries of faith, culture, and politics, making it harder to ignore. The wildfires give his words a sharper edge. They're not just tragic events, they're flashing warning signs of a world that's out of balance. The Pope's encyclical takes on a deeper meaning when the sky turns orange and the air becomes unbreathable. And here's the kicker. The Pope doesn't just paint a picture of doom, he offers hope. He believes we can change if we come together with a common purpose. That hope matters, especially when entire neighborhoods are reduced to rubble and lives are turned upside down. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such destruction, but the Pope's vision is about taking those feelings and turning them into action. It's about creating a world where we live in harmony with nature instead of fighting it. He also throws the spotlight on the people who get hit the hardest by environmental disasters, the poor and marginalized. They're the ones who suffer the most, even though they've done the least to cause the problem. In California, this plays out with low-income families losing their homes to wildfires, left to rebuild with little help. The Pope's message ties environmental care to social justice, reminding us that it's not just about saving trees, it's about protecting people, especially the vulnerable. Even the church itself is stepping up. Across the globe, Catholic communities are cutting their carbon footprints, educating people about sustainability, and helping out in disaster zones. In California, churches have been shelters for wildfire victims, showing how faith can turn into action. It's proof that the Pope's words aren't just talk. They're sparking real change. Of course, not everyone's on board. Some critics argue that the Pope's big picture ideas are hard to translate into real-world solutions, especially in places like California, where politics and economics complicate everything. Others question whether the church, with its own flaws, can lead the charge for ecological justice. These are valid points, but they don't cancel out the urgency of his message. If anything, they highlight how much work there is to do and how important it is to keep pushing forward. As California's wildfires keep raging, the Pope's call for an ecological conversion becomes harder to ignore. It's not just about planting trees or recycling. It's about changing how we see and interact with the world. Laudato Si lays out a roadmap, not just for Catholics, but for anyone who cares about the future of this planet. It's a challenge to tackle the root causes of environmental crises and build a society that values the earth as a shared home. The Pope's message has weight because it's rooted in both morality and practicality. He's not just dreaming of a better world. He's giving us the tools to make it happen. In the face of California's wildfires, his vision isn't just inspiring, it's essential. It's a call to turn devastation into a chance for renewal, proving that even in the darkest times, there's a way forward if we're willing to take it. And here's the bottom line. The wildfires are a brutal reminder that the Pope's message isn't just words on a page. It's a blueprint for survival. The question is whether we'll listen before it's too late. The choice is ours, but the stakes couldn't be higher. To truly grasp the urgency of what's happening, we need to dive deeper into the mechanics of these disasters. Wildfires, especially in places like California, are not random acts of nature, but a culmination of systemic issues. Deforestation, poorly planned urban developments, and climate policies that prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term sustainability have created a disaster waiting to happen. When the Pope emphasizes interconnectedness, he's pointing directly at these layers of problems that stack up like a house of cards. The fires reveal the links between inequality and the planet's health. Wildfires, inequality, and the urgency of action. Over the last 10 years, California has seen nearly 100 major wildfires, burning through millions of acres of land. That's not just a loss of trees, it's the destruction of entire ecosystems. Thousands of families have been displaced, and the financial toll has skyrocketed into tens of billions of dollars. Yet despite these staggering statistics, there's still resistance to the kind of transformative action that's needed. This resistance, rooted in denial and complacency, is exactly what Laudato Si challenges. When Pope Francis talks about the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, he's making it clear that environmental destruction and social injustice are two sides of the same coin. The wildfires highlight this reality in brutal ways. Communities with fewer resources often lack the means to evacuate safely or rebuild after a fire. They're left vulnerable, bearing the brunt of disasters they had little hand in causing. This isn't just unfair, it's a glaring example of the systemic inequality that fuels the ecological crisis. And then there's the broader impact. The smoke and pollutants from these fires don't just affect local air quality. They contribute to global warming, creating a feedback loop that makes future fires even more likely. The health consequences are devastating, with increased cases of respiratory illnesses and other health problems that burden healthcare systems. The Pope's message, in this context, isn't just about trees and wildlife. It's about human lives and the future of our societies. The solutions, while challenging, are within reach if there's enough collective will. Stronger forest management practices, investment in renewable energy, and urban planning that respects natural landscapes are just a few of the practical steps that can make a difference. But these solutions require more than just technical expertise. They demand a cultural shift. This is where Laudato Si goes beyond traditional environmental advocacy. It calls for a change in values, a rejection of consumerism, and an embrace of a lifestyle that prioritizes sustainability over convenience. Education plays a huge role in this transformation. By fostering an awareness of the interconnectedness that Pope Francis speaks of, communities can be empowered to take action. Schools, religious institutions, and local organizations can serve as hubs for this kind of education, providing people with the tools they need to understand and address the root causes of environmental degradation. The encyclical's emphasis on dialogue and collaboration underscores the importance of involving everyone in this process, from policymakers to ordinary citizens. One powerful aspect of Laudato Si is its ability to inspire hope in the face of overwhelming challenges. The wildfires are devastating, but they also serve as a wake-up call. They remind us of what's at stake and what can be achieved if we come together with a shared sense of purpose. The Pope's vision is not about despair, it's about recognizing the potential for renewal and acting on it. The wildfires in California are not just a local issue, they're a global one. They symbolize the broader ecological crisis that affects us all, regardless of where we live. The Pope's message, rooted in compassion and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of life, offers a path forward. It's a call to action that transcends religion, politics, and geography, urging us to take responsibility for the earth and for each other. The question is whether we're ready to answer that call before the flames consume more than just forests and homes. This broader understanding of the crisis also ties back to the pressing need for sustainable urbanization. As populations grow and urban areas expand, the challenge of building resilient cities becomes more urgent. Developing cities that harmonize with nature instead of overpowering it would be a step toward addressing many of the root causes behind disasters like wildfires. Renewable energy infrastructures, green spaces integrated into urban planning, and stricter policies on deforestation are only a fraction of what's required. If cities like Los Angeles were to embrace such measures fully, they could serve as global examples of what ecological recovery and resilience look like. Then there's the question of global accountability. While California often makes headlines, these environmental calamities are mirrored across the world. From Amazon rainforest fires to floods in Southeast Asia, every region is telling a similar story. Humanity's neglect is pushing ecosystems to their breaking point. Pope Francis's universal message addresses this, emphasizing that the Earth's health is a shared responsibility. While individual regions face unique challenges, global cooperation is key to combating climate issues comprehensively. International agreements like the Paris Climate Accord are steps in the right direction, but their effectiveness hinges on collective commitment and action. Another significant layer of Laudato Si is its philosophical perspective on technology. While technological advancements have the potential to mitigate some of the environmental issues we face, they're often a double-edged sword. The Pope highlights how over-reliance on quick fixes and high-tech solutions can sometimes distract from the core problem: humanity's disconnection from the natural world. For instance, while artificial intelligence can aid in monitoring wildfire risks, it's not a substitute for sustainable forest management or the cultural shifts required to prevent environmental crises in the first place. Moreover, the spiritual element of Laudato Si offers a deeper dimension to these challenges. Pope Francis frames the environmental crisis as not just a physical, but a spiritual failure. This perspective challenges individuals to rethink their values and priorities, urging a sense of humility and stewardship. It's about recognizing that the earth isn't just a resource, it's a gift, and humanity has a duty to care for it. This spiritual framing is particularly resonant in today's increasingly secularized world, where materialism often overshadows deeper ethical considerations. The role of youth in driving ecological transformation cannot be overlooked. The younger generations have consistently been at the forefront of environmental advocacy, with movements like Fridays for Future demonstrating their commitment to change. Laudato Si serves as both a guide and an inspiration for these activists, reinforcing the idea that their efforts are not just necessary but morally imperative. Empowering youth with education, resources, and platforms to lead the way could be one of the most effective ways to turn the tide on the climate crisis. Is leadership in times of crisis failing us, or are we failing to demand more from our leaders? Let us know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.